So yesterday we already discussed all these documents, principal documents, commercial invoice, packing list, certificate of origin, again ordinary as well as GSP, insurance certificate, freight certificate, quality certificate, right? And we discussed, what are the different possibilities depending on the requirement of the host country regulation. Now, host country regulations are not regulatory document for us. For us, it becomes principal document because they are part of the LC. That is very important to understand. Our regulatory document is okay, but their regulatory documents of the buyer as an exporter, they becomes our principal document because they have to be procured to get the payment, right? So they are not regulatory documents. So what are our important regulatory documents? Let us discuss those documents. The most important document is IEC code. What is the significance of IEC code? That is very important. Otherwise, if you look at it in a very simple way, IEC code is like a PAN number. For a company, like PAN number is for individual. And IEC number is a kind of PAN card for a company. Now this company can be proprietorship, it can be partnership, it can be publicly limited company, whatever may be the status, but IEC code number will be one. So in a proprietorship company, IEC code number is identified with the proprietor. Now that proprietor may have a PAN number also. So that is his personal matter. But a proprietor, since he is the sole owner of the company, is connected with the IEC number. I will tell you why I am saying this thing. But in a publicly limited company and private company and publicly limited company, there is a set of people, the directors, so they all are identified with the IEC code number. Why I am saying this, I'll just explain it to you. Because you have to understand what is the significance of IEC code number. IEC code number, although is issued by Directorate General of Foreign Trade, DGFT, but actually it is a document not of DGFT, no. Actually it is a document of RBI. It's a document of RBI. So what is the meaning of this? The core function of RBI in any export-import operation is to make sure two things. When somebody is an exporter, because this is IEC code number, importer, exporter code number, both. When you work as an exporter, whatever you export from India, every penny of that has to come back to India, right? Knowingly or unknowingly. Now what is the meaning of knowingly and unknowingly? An exporter unknowingly means he exports something for 1 crore rupees from India. Payment has to come because LC is still not clear. It is possible there is a commercial risk, there is a non-payment risk, the money does not come. Now RBI has to pinpoint that who is the culprit. RBI is not concerned whether you did it intentionally or unintentionally, or you were party to that. It's not a criminal agency. They are not bothered. But their job is to create a mechanism wherein if you have exported something, every penny of that should come to India. That is one part. Right? Second part of, in the same context, second part of RBI is for the importers. If an importer is importing something, whatever he has paid for the goods in the international market, it is in foreign exchange, right? In the case of export also, it is foreign exchange because foreign exchange has to come. In the second part of the functions of RBI, if an importer has imported something and has paid for something, that material has to come. These are the two major functions of RBI. First is, if you have exported something, money should come. If you have imported something, that whatever the money you have paid for it, that material should come. These are the very basic core function of RBI, and RBI does it through IEC code. They have created a mechanism, right? Now, related to the same two functions, there is another part of it, wherein actually RBI does not have much leverage, but that is mechanism should try to find out or try to ensure that there is no under invoicing or over invoicing. Now, if there is under invoicing or invoicing, it is knowingly, right? The person has done it criminally. But since RBI is not a criminal organization, RBI cannot do that. That part is taken care by customs. That is actually the role of customs. The core role of customs is to make sure that there is no under invoicing or over invoicing. What is the meaning of this? That if you have exported something, if it is actually worth 1 crore rupees, money which should come to India should be 1 crore. It should not be 50 lakh rupees. The person should not say that the material which I have exported actually is worth 50 lakh rupees, while it is actually 1 crore rupees, right? Again, the black money part, right? And the vice versa, in case of imports also. If the goods are 1 crore rupees, 2 crore should not go. The importer should not say that it is 2 crore rupees worth goods. Suppose there is a duty-free item, right? So he can always say that it is 2 crore rupees. So 1 crore rupees will go out of India as black money, right? So that is actually the role of customs, okay? But in both the cases, the mechanism is IEC code number. What is the mechanism? RBI says, I am not a criminal agency. I do not understand better what you have done, but I am only bothered about one thing, that you filed a shipping bill with the customs, that you are exporting something, right? And you have exported, value is given there, 1 crore rupees worth of goods. If the money does not come in 180 days maximum, your IEC code number will be blacklisted. IEC code number will be blacklisted. What is the meaning of this? If you are a proprietor of the company, you are the only one who is connected with that IEC code number. So in future, you cannot obtain any IEC code number from RBI. From Indian soil, you cannot do this business if you are a proprietor. But if you are a private limited company or a public limited company, if you are a director, right, the blacklisting will be of the company because you are a director, right? But in future, if you join another company or the same company or anything, if you are the director, that company cannot get an IEC code. Suppose there are 10 directors and any of these 10 directors join another company or change the name or whatever they do, code number cannot be. Even if the single director of any next company is blacklisted or connected with the blacklisted company in the record of the IRB, right? Got it? So this is one of the very strong mechanisms to make sure that whatever the goods have been exported or imported, money should come. IC code number is the only method. Like PAN number. In PAN number also, income tax department does not know you. They only know the PAN number. That in this PAN number, these transactions were made and the income tax has not been paid. Right? Same thing. IC code number works like a PAN number, but for the company or for the international transactions, connections. So this IC code number is clear, and it is DGFT is basically an implementation body. DGFT. So that's why they are involved in issuing. But actually, the data is maintained by RBI. So that is the first major regulatory document. And when you form a new company, obviously this is the first part of it. Okay. This is the now the second most important document, which is, I am giving the technical name. What? No. That is the GR form. The most important regulatory document is GR form. Now, what is GR? GR means guarantee remittance. Guarantee remittance. GR. Now, it is now known with many other names which I will discuss with you. But basically, this is a document. This is basically an exchange control document. Exchange control document. What is the meaning of exchange control document? The same thing which I told you. When you export something, when you file the shipping bill with the customs, there is an exchange control copy of that shipping bill. That exchange control copy is nothing but GR form, actually. the shipping bill has several copies. One is the main copy, second is the exchange control copy, third is the export promotion copy. Right? EP copy, export promotion copy. That is the main, right? First is the main copy which you are communicating with the customs. The same material is the exchange control copy. That exchange control copy in the EDI system, electronic data interface, because now it is online, right? So when you file a shipping bill, automatically the exchange control copy goes to RBI through electronic channel, automatically, right? And EP copy goes to incentives department, wherever the incentives have to be released, duty drawback or whatever it is, right? Because see why it is. Because when you file the shipping bill, what is shipping bill? It's an export declaration that you are exporting this thing. This is the material, this is the exchange value, and in a language which is understood by customs department, which is understood by RBI, which is understood by the agencies which give you the export incentives. Simple, right? And there comes that HS code thing, because that basically all these RBI and incentive control, basically all these categories of items, they don't want to get into the description which is in the invoice. This item, a CNC lathe machine with robotic arm, they are not scientists. They don't understand what is robotic arm. They don't understand 3-phase, 4-phase. They don't understand. They are only bothered with the HS code. Then what is the code? And all their duty drawback or whatever it is, or RBI's, what item has gone, money has, what should be the value of that, or even for the customs. Customs to find out from the international market that what actually is the value of this robotic arm infested 3-phase motor with foundation and this and that. If they go in the detail of the description, they can never find the actual value. It's not possible. Are you understanding what I'm saying? For customs, the role of customs is to make sure that whatever you are exporting is a fair market value, whether it is export or import, right? Now, if they go in the description of the material, it is not possible for customs to find out what actually is the fair price. They will not understand. So what they do, and also, maybe it is possible, but then they will have to employ a lot of experts. Experts of automotive sector, of export of pharmaceutical sector, which they don't have. It's not possible to create an army of experts. So to simplify the matter, they have created HS code, harmonized system of classification, HS code, throughout the world. The same codes are used. So what they do, they, instead of going into the description of the material, they simply use the HS code to find out that the shipping bills were found not only in India, they were found in Argentina also, or maybe in Manila also, or maybe in Philippines and all these places. All the database is there. And what is the average value of the people who are filing? All the world cannot be a fraud. I mean, obviously, right? So it will become very easy for them, right? To find out is there any hanky-panky going on in India, right? With the code number. That is a very simple method. You don't need any experts for this, right? That is the reason why you have to file shipping bill. Otherwise, you could have used invoice also. Why there is a new document to give it to the customer or to declare that I am exporting something. So basically, shipping bill is required, whether it is online or offline, is required for export declaration, right? So, which means, in fact, shipping bill also is a regulatory document, right? Shipping bill is also a regulatory document. And exchange control copy of that is a GR form. GR form is guarantee remittance. So what actually is happening? In other words, you are doing two things. One, you are giving the declaration, export declaration. Second thing, you are giving a declaration that it is my responsibility to make sure that the money comes within 180 days. That is the maximum allowed, right? It's a legal document telling to the government of India that I am guaranteeing the remittance. Remittance means money will come. Otherwise, how will the RBI will sue you? Legally, they cannot do it, right? And of course, the third copy, that is the EP copy. It is also a regulatory document. So in fact, 1, 2, 3. All the 3 copies are same for the simple reason. The main characteristics of these documents is the HS code, which is that HS code is normally not there in any of the principal documents. You will not find. In the principal document, you will not find any HS code. That is not for the purpose of principal documents. Most of the HS codes are used for the regulatory documents.
Who provides this HS code?
HS code is you can buy a handbook. HS code, what is harmonized system? ITC, International Trade Classification, ITC.
Is there any agency?
No, handbook is available for 300 rupees, 400 rupees.
Suppose the product doesn't match within that classification.
Yes, you are right. That is where the role of CHA comes. Customs House Agent. CHA who signs the documents. Basically, he has to clear the examination. Customs do every year in different months they have custom house agent examination. Level A, level B, level C, like that, right? And they give the power to sign these copies. They are issued the special code number, electronic code number, signature, digital signature, right? So which has to be used when you file this, right? So what is CHA? CHA is like advocate in a court. You cannot understand the magistrate language, or magistrate will not understand the language of the victim or the accused. So in between you need an advocate. Similarly, for custom purpose, you need a CHA. CHA will help you in making you understand what is the HS code, and if he signs, normally custom people will not contest it unless there is a strong reason. And he has been trained, he is a professional, right? That's why CHA signature is required, whether physical signature or digital signature, right? Got it? So he's a interface between you and the customer. If any dispute arises, ideally, although people do it directly also, but ideally he should be the person who should talk to the customer people. Actually, it doesn't in practice. It doesn't happen. Many times customer will say, I don't know, you bring the party, because the reason is party knows this product better than CHA, so they can understand better, right? So customer people will only say, okay, you also come, but bring the party. So they will give you a time, or even otherwise you can meet in customs, right? Although that system is not there in the courts, Indian courts, but there you have to go through the advocate only. But in customs,
there is no any government approved agency who provides the HS code for various society product. HS code is already well defined. You have to basically.
No. See. Description can be of. See, whatever their number of custom invoices, everybody can have their own description. You can have a robotic arm on the left side, on the right side, foundation. Price can change by just having a left-hand drive car or a right-hand drive car, but both are car. A car, Audi is a Audi, with the automatic transmission, like there's so many things. So where in HS code also there are a lot of categories of cars. Where you fit in your car, which code? I mean, first of all, the manufacturer will tell you. You can check with the manufacturer, right? They will know, because they have been importing so many items against that. So they will have a very fairly good idea. If you yourself are a manufacturer, you will definitely know the HS code, definitely, right? In HS classification also, there are first what is there? Chapters, then subchapters, then within chapters you have paragraph, then subparagraph, and then they are well described.
Yes, I have seen this classification.
Yeah.
And suppose we identify some HS code, then it's basically our declaration that will be endorsed by BHA, and that will become the final. So maybe government agency will tell some HS code certificates or something, they will not be suitable.
There is no such thing, and it is not possible. Then that agency has to have a lot of experts, which is not practical. It's not possible. It is just a matter of contesting, and that is where the role of CHA comes. Because CHA will not sign something, he will lose his license if he does something intentionally, and he is making money out of his license only, that signature, right? That is the main purpose. Like an advocate, right? So basically, his signature purpose is that only, that we will trust you because you have got it signed through a CHA, and CHA is our man. He has been trained by us. So custom will say that, and custom have their own way of making sure that you give the right declaration. And don't see, unknowingly you can do something, unknowingly, by mistake. That is okay. They will, if they can find that it is unknowingly or by mistake, they may have some, what they will say, okay, you pay in case of imports, you pay extra duty. They will not levy any penalty. But if they feel you have done it intentionally, then they will levy penalty. See, that's the whole thing, like custom people, they also can catch whether they are doing intentionally. And if it is doing intentionally, then CHA is in trouble. You are in trouble. You will pay only the penalty, but CHA will lose his license. That is the problem. Correct? See, all these things are very well defined. I mean, although I am not saying that the people are not misusing that, it happens. But how much? Few percentage. It is not very rampant, right? Okay.
Price of the product may vary because of the change in HS.
Obviously.
That's why this word invoicing, under-invoicing.
And in fact, mainly under and over invoicing is due to the brand. Because the same product of one brand can be higher price. The same product of another brand can be, right? So that game, customs try to do something, like how is it possible that the chocolate made imported from Switzerland will be same price which you are importing from Malaysia? There the dispute arises. HS code is same. The chocolate which is coming from Malaysia is HS code is same. Switzerland it is coming same, but the price are different, right? So custom people, that is the grey area. That is the grey area. When the HS code is same, technically, but we know the price is very different. Obviously, even the watches, if it is coming from Hong Kong, all the same here is coming from Switzerland, Swiss made. See the difference. Printer, HP printer, ordinary printer. That is the main area of trouble. HS code is same. In that case, custom have their own method. They use the principle of origin, where the goods are originating, certificate of origin. So they will say that as per our data, you are doing under invoicing. Okay, HS code is same, but we are using the data for this certificate, this origin, right? They also have a data, na? That this HS code from Switzerland indicates this price. The same HS code from Malaysia indicates another. So they already have international data online, right? And that is the reason all this system has been made online. It is very easy to compare. It is very good for the government actually, making it online, EDI. Okay. So GR form is okay. No, GR form can have different names. Normally, the most common name is the exchange control copy of shipping bill. But suppose it is used, I mean the shipping bill is used for normal merchandise, it is GR form. But if it is suppose used for things like software, right? Software, then it is called soft tax form. Why it is different? Because in software, custom is not involved. In software, you send the material via satellite from your office, right? So where is the custom involved? That's why those forms are separate forms. But that has to be, so that is based on self-declaration. That today we had sent these softwares from our email or from our FTP protocol or from satellite. So you have to maintain audit, and that form has to be filed automatically. So it will not go electronically. So you have to physically file it with the RBI, right? And to the customer also, right? Because there is no physical examination. It's not possible in software. right? I hope you understand. It is also called SDF.
Yes.
It is also called SDF, statutory document form. Sorry, statutory declaration form. Sorry, it is also called SDF. Statutory. See, this whole category of forms actually is called SDF. So GR form is a SDF. Soft tax is a SDF. Right? What is the meaning of SDF? SDF means, actually, RBI use this word. You are exporting what? Merchandise. You are exporting what? Software. You are exporting. We don't know. Where is the SDF? The person who what is SDF? वही जो आपका होता है, मेरा क्या होता है? अच्छा merchandise. अच्छा मेरा तो GR form होता है. The other person says, oh, I am software. हाँ, मेरा तो soft tax होता है. You know, it's like this. Basically, for RBI, it is SDF, statutory declaration form, right? So whether you call it EP exchange control copy of shipping bill, whether you call it GR form, whether you call it soft tax, depending on the case to case, right? Where shipping bill is not required, obviously it will be called GR form. Where shipping bill is there, then it will be exchange control copy of shipping bill, right? So these are the main form. Then there is another very important form, regulatory form, that is ARE. It is also used the word one. I will tell you why it's called one. ARE is application for removal of goods for excise. ARE form. Application for removal of goods for excise. No, again it is very logical. See, up till now, whatever documents we have discussed, they are all very logical documents. Obviously, logical means these are. Do you think that the business of export or import can be done without these documents? It's not possible, because you have to comply with these laws. Otherwise, the government cannot function, right? So there is nothing which is coming out of the whims and fancies of the government. No, it's not like that. These are the things which actually are required, right? So okay. So what is ARE? When I told you, very simple thing, I told you, the WTO does not mind that the government pays back whatever government is taking. So when the goods are being exported from a factory, like for example, handicrafts are to be exported. Now, in some handicrafts, although it is excise duty is not there, but there may be some item in handicrafts where excise duty may be there. Like for example, Moradabad is exporting wrought iron plus glass items. So wrought iron probably may have some excise duty in it, right? If the consignment is very big, the excise duty will be there. So there is two ways. If it is indirectly going into that as a marginal amount, then it will be obtainable from the Indian government through duty drawback. That route, right? The second route is suppose the goods, the finished good itself is excisable, like tires and tubes. Now that factory is manufacturing tires and tubes, and there is a lot of excise. It is not that the everything which is the government that factory is making is going for export only. Many of the things are going for the domestic use also. So excise duty is being paid. So what they will say that there is a certain part of my manufacturing today or tomorrow or this week, which is actually for export, and it has to come out of the factory. Ideally, you don't pay excise duty. Ideally, you should not pay excise duty. So if you pay, then you'll have to change the government and to get it back. It is better that you don't pay, right? So to do that, to make it simple, they have this ARE form, application for removal of goods for excise from the factory without paying the excise duty. Without paying the duty. So ARE form is actually nothing but a declaration that I am removing these goods from the factory and I don't want to pay the excise duty. But why it is required? It's a declaration that it is because if the goods are being removed from the factory, it is not being exported. Till the shipping bill is filed, till they have been cleared by the customs. In between, you can divert the goods, right? So with this form, government will know that these goods have been removed from the factory against this ARE form, wherein excise note has not been paid. So you have to get it justified. You have to get it, in the government record. You have to get it cleared. So this form helps. How it helps? It has got 3 sections. This form has got 3 sections. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3. This form has got 3 sections. ERE. In Section 1, if you fill this part, you are declaring that this shipment is going from a factory under rebate. Now what is the meaning of under rebate? Under rebate means, okay, I am giving the excise duty, no problem. I am giving the excise duty. Now, but I would claim rebate later. When I will prove, I will file the shipping bill and I will produce the EP copy of the shipping bill along with the bank realization certificate and the custom bank attached invoice, 3 documents I will produce. So what is the why these 3 documents? One is this document with this declaration that I am reviewing the goods under rebate. So it's a proof that excise has been paid. It's a proof for the goods for which excise should not have been paid actually, because it's for export. But the problem is that the goods have not yet been exported, right? So what I will do, I am giving a declaration that I have paid the duty. Sir, please keep my money. I am coming back. Please give me my money back. You will like that. So under rebate means. Along with what you will do, along with this, you will bring what? Shipping, EP copy of shipping bill. You will bring the bank attested CI, customs invoice, commercial invoice, and EBRC or BRC. Same thing. Today now, bank realization certificate is available online. EBRC, right? So EBRC, these 3 things you will take. So government will say, we'll put a stamp here after the exports and we'll give an order, please pay this amount. Whatever the amount is there, this will be, order will be there on section C. Please pay, right? Correct? Section 1, 2 and 3. This will remain blank. This will remain blank. This is one way, right? Second is, keep it blank. Second is keep it blank, right? Here you say, I am removing these goods. It is declaration to the government of India and I don't want to pay excise duty. Please, I don't want to pay. I have no time to claim it back. So government will say, what is the guarantee? Government will say, what is the guarantee? It's a money matter, So what will say? Okay, no problem. I am not paying the duty. I will write the bank guarantee number of that amount. There is a running bank guarantee. You already have a bank guarantee with the government. So you give the number of that bank guarantee. So you are hypothecating that bank guarantee to the government. You are not paying anything. And bank guarantees you already have, right? It's very easy to get bank guarantee certificate from your bank. They will provide you at a certain charge. You put that number that it is now in your account, that bank guarantee. If I don't pay, you can use this bank guarantee, no problem. So it is called ARE excise removal under bond. The first is called under rebate, this is called under bond. Now after you have done the exports, along with this declaration, which is duly endorsed by the excise department, because in many of these companies, excise people are already selling big factories. And if they are not sending the excise office, you get it endorsed. And when you export, you come back along with this form, declaration form, ARE form, and bank attested copy of CI, and EP copy of shipping bill, and EBRC. You give it to the government. Government will put a seal and will write bank guarantee is released. No money involved, right? Bank guarantee is released. So you can do. That's why they have got 3 sections. 1, 2, 3. First is under rebate. Second is under bond. And this third is basically to close the account. If it is in rebate, order to pay. If it is under bond, release the bank guarantee. Just a declaration by the government, NOC, that we have no objection, we will not use this bank guarantee. That's fine. Simple.
For the stating that we cannot putting
after the goods have been exported.
Not every time it's shipping.
Yeah. So in that case, it will become a post-shipment document. All these are pre-shipment documents. All these documents which we are discussing are pre-shipment, right? EBRC, bank attested CI, all these documents which I am talking, they are all post-shipment documents, right? I think there shouldn't be any doubt now. So most of the regulatory document we have covered. Most of the document, there will be small things. EBRC is online available nowadays, right? In big cities like Delhi, Mumbai, you can get it from bank relation certificate. That is also one document. See, what is BRC? It is a proof that the money has already come. Now, this EBRC, this custom bank address, has also been given to the RBI within 180 days. Otherwise, your IC code number will be blacklisted, right? So what happens? I'll tell you. What is the simple way? There is another fourth copy of shipping bill. There is a fourth copy, again electronic. From customs, that copy automatically goes to the bank. That copy automatically goes to the bank. That's a bank copy. Fourth copy. And bank either give physically, yes, the money has been realized, and also issues you EBRC. So what do you do? This fourth copy attested by bank attested commercial invoice, EBRC, you give it to RBI. Now what RBI will do? He will match the first copy which came, exchange control copy, and this bank attested copy. If it is same, your case will be closed. Otherwise, if it is not closed within the 180 days, your IC code number will be blacklisted. But it looks complicated, but it's not complicated because it's all electronic system. So you can do it sitting at your office also. It's not that you don't have to run around. I'm not sure, but I think this nowadays is not required even physically. Bank, because BRC is also electronic, this copy is also electronic. So you can request the bank, they will charge something, they will send it to RBI because they are already connected with RBI, right? So bank itself will send all these copies on your behalf, charging you something. So that money will be charged from the bank. That is the purpose of EBRC basically. Otherwise what was happening? People had to run with BRC to the RBI, right? So the purpose of EBRC is the same. Because everything else is electronic. So that is, EBRC is also now electronic. So you don't have to go anywhere. So automatically it will go to RBI, but at a charge. Bank will charge for it. Right? Okay. So this regulatory document, most of it is electronic. Most of it. Right? And it has made the life very easy for exporters as well as importers. Now, in the case of imports also, same thing. When you open the LC, the name of the shipping bill changes there. There is no difference. It is called bill of entry. In the case of imports, the name of this 1, 2, 3, 4, all these copies, it is called shipping bill here, but there it is called bill of entry. Same thing. Format is same, everything is same. Right? Out there also you have all these copies. You don't have an EP copy because import promotion, IP copy will not be there. There is no import promotion. Government do not give any incentive for imports. So this copy will not be there. EP copy. Exchange control copy will be there. Bank copy will be there. Okay. So when you open a LC, that time itself you can start the process of bill of entry. If you do it later, then that has to be matched with the LC. You have to give it to them. Same thing. Conceptually, there is no difference. In that case, the exchange control copy of the bill of entry will be matched with the EBRC. In this case, it will not be EBRC basically. It will be in this case of import. It will be the money transfer copy. That money has been transferred by the issuing bank, because Issuing bank is an Indian bank. So when he release the release order is the copy which has to be matched with the along with the bank copy. It has to be matched with the RBI. So your case will be closed. Otherwise, your IC code number will be right. And bill of entry of customer also has to go to make sure RBI to the RBI that goods have come. Right.
And if it is beyond 6 months, the export.
If it is beyond 6 months, you have to apply to the RBI with valid reasons for the delay. They may agree, they may not. In any case, you will get 1 week time. Beyond 6 months, you will get 1 week time. Within that 1 week time, you have to file an application explaining all the circumstances. Normally it is not accepted. Because you already got 180 days, which should be sufficient, right? See, basically 180 days is required in user's LC. If it is a side LC, then 180 days is a very, very long time, right? Users, and 180 days user's LC is very rare. Normally it is not there as an exporter. Do you think that there will be 180 days? Normally it is not there. Maximum 90 days. Maximum 120 days. You still have so much time. So RBI will not give you time. Okay. So this is all about regulatory document.
So this shipping advice, shipping instruction, and shipping orders.
Yeah.
Same.
See, what actually all these things? Let me explain to you. When you are going abroad, you buy a ticket, you book a ticket. When the LC is there, you already know that before this date your goods has to be, and shipping, and there may be different conditions in the LC. One of the conditions may be there is no transshipment. Transshipment is not allowed. So you have to find a ship which is going directly from Bombay to. So what you have to do? You have to book a space which is convenient to the conditions of the LC. Right? So, two things. One is the convenience of the LC. Second is the nature of the goods. Are they, these goods, are they perishable goods, or there is some problem with the goods? Like fragile goods. So you have to give this instructions, and you have to book the space. So they will give you a shipping order. Without shipping order, how will you file shipping bill? How will you file? Unless, without shipping order, custom will not allow goods to enter into port. Right? So shipping order is required. Like when you go abroad, when you buy a ticket, your visa will not be given unless you have a ticket. Same thing. Your ticket is a shipping order. Like in cargo, it is shipping order.
This circular which will be implemented on the 1st of April, which says that to ease the export business, the set of document is reduced to some 2-3 documents only.
See, they always say, there was what happened, India is ranking in ease of doing business is very bad. So there was a statement by government of India that you can do export just by using shipping bill of lading.
Invoice packing list and
Invoice packing list, shipping bill and bill of lading. But that's a theoretical. That is theoretical. The fact is, without other documents, you cannot do business. See, you will not get the incentives. You will get all these problems. It is just what they have done. That it is up to you whether you use other documents or not. These are the minimum documents, statutory document. Like RBI documents will be statutory, obviously. Custom document will be statutory, right? And the shipping company bill of lading. So and even packing list is not mandatory. No.
packing list is
Not mandatory. It's not mandatory. Only so just to improve the ranking. But the fact remains, without these documents you cannot.
Obviously,
You cannot.
the importer wants to have a
Obviously, if the documents are valid in LC, you have to have the, you have to produce the documents. What is it has no meaning. But it is just that the government is not bothered. Government is only saying that you should have an invoice, which is mandatory, and you should have a bill of lading and shipping bill. That's all. Nothing else is required.
What is the expiry date of LC and how it is decided?
There is a delivery date.
Delivery date.
That is the delivery of the goods. And after that, normally, LC expires, normally, the timing period is given. In UCP 500, 600, those days are mentioned. Normally it is 30 days. Normally it is.
But if delivery gets delayed, then
Yeah,
it can be
if it get, that's why it's 30 days. But in users LC it will be more. In case of users LC, obviously it will be more.
LC at site, it will be 30 days.
Yeah, 30 days.
Extendable?
Normally.
Is it
Then it is, everything is extendable, everything is amendable, but they will charge. Bank will charge. Bank is very happy because he gets money by doing all this, right? And nothing has to be done. Only a email has to be done. And for one email, they will get $500. So why not? They are very happy, right? So in bank, you can do you can convert that LC from 1 month validity to 1 year also, but consent of the buyer. Buyer has to give instruction, and pay for it. So either buyer pays or you pay. Somebody has to pay, right? Bank. What is bank? Bank is a business. Bank is nothing but a business. Simple.
Go down on every transaction.
And let me tell you one more thing. Till few months back, in India as well as in many of the countries, all the bank charges were controlled by FEDI, Financial Dealer Association of it. In case of India, and similarly you have FEDI of different countries, right? Now government says it's a business. We have nothing to do with the prices. You negotiate yourself. So everything is negotiable with bank. Whatever charges bank have is all negotiable, right? So now, people still have, okay, what are your charges? Oh, this is the charges. Okay, everybody bank must be same. No, it is not same. You can negotiate. It's a business. Sir, why are you charging so much? No. It should not be $500, sir. It is in dollars, sir. You convert in rupees. How much? It becomes 25,000 rupees. Sir, for this small email, you will charge me 25,000 rupees. You can always argue, and probably you can get a better price. You can always negotiate, because earlier it was mandatory that they have to go by the FEDI rules, but no more. FEDI says it is only a guideline. Whatever the rules FEDI makes is only a guideline, because they say that otherwise how business will grow. If we'll tell everybody, dictate everybody that this amount has to be taken, we are not a government organization, right? It's a pure business. So everything is negotiable. Nowadays even interest rates are negotiable. You know that, right? For FDs. Okay. So should we have a break?